And operatives of the Department of the State Service have arrested the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ajaero. Ajaero was arrested on Monday morning at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on his way to the United Kingdom for an official assignment. The NLC president was billed to attend the Trade Union Congress Conference in London, which begins today. Confirming the development in a post via his official X handle, the NLC said Ajaero's arrest is an assault on Nigerian workers. Now recall that the Nigeria Police Force had invited and interrogated Ajaero over allegations of terrorism financing, cybercrime, subversion, criminal conspiracy, and treasonable felony. And in more news, the Nigeria Labour Congress is currently holding a meeting following the detention of its president, Ajaero, by the Nigerian government while on his way to the United Kingdom for a Global Workers' Summit. Speaking to News Central Television, NLC Head of Public Relations Benson Upa condemned the detention as a brazen act of lawlessness and intimidation and demanded Ajaero's immediate and unconditional release. The NLC also urged the international community, human rights organizations, and democracy advocates to be aware of what it described as a growing wave of authoritarianism in Nigeria. Upa further stated that the NLC has placed its affiliates, state councils, and civil society partners on high alert, vowing to defend workers' rights and resist any oppressive measures.
We are appalled, we are outraged by this relentless act of repression by the state. We are in a closed-door meeting this very moment. At the end of the meeting, what our response shall be will be made public. We have demanded for his immediate and unconditional release from detention. We have also demanded that this act of repression being perpetrated under the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu should stop. They cannot cow Nigerians. Nigerians have a robust spirit. We are very nice people. Our niceness, our goodness should not be abused by this government. Finally, take note of this poem. When they came for the Jews, I said I was not a Jew. When they came for the teachers, I said I was not a teacher. When they came for the merchants, I said I was not a merchant. By the time they came for me, there was no one left to cry for me. Take note. Thank you.
Now, the Nigerian army has dismissed reports of mass resignation by soldiers over corruption and low morale as misleading and an attempt to tarnish its reputation. Responding to claims making rounds in the media, the Army clarified that service is voluntary, allowing personnel to disengage according to established procedures. The Army emphasized that discharges are routine and follow proper procedure to prepare personnel for post-service life, including entitlements and pensions. It refuted claims of low morale, highlighting that soldiers are motivated and welfare remains a top priority on the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. The Army is undertaking significant improvements in living conditions, infrastructure, and personnel training. It called on the media to verify information before publication and avoid spreading disinformation. And the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, on Monday debunked reports that the rate of value-added tax has been upwardly adjusted to 10% from 7.5%. The minister, in a statement, affirmed that the VAT rate was contained in relevant tax laws and chargeable on goods and services remain at 7%. That's 7.5%, I beg your pardon. He said neither the federal government nor any of its agencies will act contrary to what our laws stipulate. The finance minister reiterated that the government's focus is to use fiscal policy in a manner that promotes strong and sustainable economic growth, reduce poverty, and make businesses flourish. Now, in the meantime, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has condemned plans by the federal government to increase value-added tax. In a statement via his ex-handler, Atiku said the policy would deepen the domestic cost of living crisis. He described the plan as a blazing inferno that will consume the very essence of people. He said President Bola Tinubu, alongside his coterie of advisors, has resolved to raise the VAT rate from 7.5% to 10%, even as the NNPCL has announced a soaring PMS price increase at the pumps. Atiku's outburst comes on the heels of the increase in the pump price of premium motor spirit, also known as fuel, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited. And oil marketers in Nigeria may soon begin importing petrol after the Nigerian Petroleum and National Petroleum Company, NNPC, announced it would only purchase from Dangote Petroleum Refinery if market prices exceed local pump prices. NNPC clarified that Dangote and other domestic refineries could sell directly to marketers on a willing buyer, willing seller basis, stating it does not aim to be the sole distributor. This contrasts with Dangote Group President Aliko Dangote's recent statement that NNPC would be the refinery's only domestic off-taker. Marketers say they will source petrol wherever it is cheaper, including imports. Mustafa Zamar of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association indicated that they may contact Dangote this week to check prices, confirming the government will not intervene in pricing. The leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students says it is ready to meet with President Bola Tinubu if need be over its demand for the reversal of the recent increase in prices of petrol motor spirit, popularly known as petrol. The secretary of the association, David Eriareka, revealed that during an interview with newsmen in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. According to him, the students' body is currently in discussion with key stakeholders in the petroleum industry, including businessmen Aliko Dangote, oil marketers as well, and the Minister of State for Petroleum, to seek a solution that would alleviate the public's burden. The development comes after the student body insisted on going ahead with a planned nationwide protest against the increase in petrol prices. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress has sounded an alarm that Nigerians may soon pay 5,000 naira per litre for petrol under the current administration. Speaking during an interview with newsmen, NLC spokesperson Benson Upa condemned the recent fuel price hike, calling it a breach of the agreement between NLC and President Bola Tinubu's government. Now, the NLC spokesperson emphasized that this forecast is contingent upon government policies, urging Nigerians to be prepared for the worst. Now, to discuss this and the raising concerns over the increase in price of petrol, we are joined by public affairs analyst Moses Idika. Moses, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you today? Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you very much. So former Vice President Abubakar Atiku warned that the increase in petrol price by the federal government has put most Nigerians at a breaking point. Do you agree with his statement?
Well, even to the blind, it is very obvious that Nigerians have never had this rough in the last 40 years. Because the reign of uncertainty in Nigeria today is not something you can wrap your head around. So Atiku is right. And he's not the only one speaking. Several Nigerians, organizations, CSOs, and the people on the streets. If you live anywhere in Nigeria, if you paid 200 naira to go to certain places, maybe to the market or a place of work 2 weeks back, I'm sure that today, as at this morning, there would have been like 200% increment in that transport fare. And this thing has ripple effects to every part of our lives as a country, as a people. School fees will increase, bus transport to schools will increase, rent will increase. Of course, food prices, food items in the market, they've so skyrocketed that if you go to any market in Nigeria with 100,000 naira, you may just leave the market with a nylon bag, a polythene bag. So that is how bad the thing has become. If you go to refuse dumps today, you see that we now have more scavengers. Before now, people pick up trash like recyclable items, plastics, iron, or other metal items. But unfortunately, even today, some Nigerians pick out food items in dustbins. That is how bad the situation has gotten.
So considering that the middle class is shrinking, and well, at least they have the option of becoming the low-income earners at this point, what hope lies for the low-income household themselves? What are the implications of the poverty rates, especially on the low-income earners currently?
Well, I think that there's hardly any middle class in Nigeria. Middle class is now a thing of one's imagination. You are either poor or you are rich. And when I say rich, you are extremely rich. Okay, let me give you an example. In most neighborhoods in Nigeria, even the ones classified as GRAs and elite neighborhood, you find out that when there is power cut, before now, it will be like an industrial area because of people putting on their generators. Today, everywhere is quiet. And of course, there's this astronomical hike in electricity tariff. So people everywhere is silent. Even those who manage to buy 4 units at 1,000 naira of any of the distribution company tokens, you find out that they ration it. Places are in darkness. People put up lights because they are trying to conserve energy. So there is hardly any middle class in Nigeria. You are either up there with the government people or you are the other side. Many people are now parking their vehicles. So there is hardly any middle class in Nigeria today. So when you now talk of the poorest of the poor, like I said earlier, Nigerians are now scavenging for food, and it's so sad. Recently, a friend told me that she was trying to carry out a research on food waste in Nigeria, but it turned out that she couldn't find any. She went to markets, to places where people sell perishable food items, and she couldn't even find anywhere that people dumped maybe spoiled tomatoes or spoiled cucumber or any of those things. That is how bad the situation has been. So the poor of the poor, they are now being completely erased from the system, from existence, because hunger has no respect for anybody.
So what are the most effective public policy interventions to mitigate the impact of this fuel price hike or on the cost of living? And how can the effectiveness of these interventions be evaluated as well?
Please, I didn't get that, please.
So I was asking what the most effective means we could use or policies that are available to help mitigate these fuel price hikes, if there are any available, perhaps maybe by the government or maybe by suggestion.
I don't think there's any effective way, because until the government reverses the fuel price hike, so that if at all there's any policy to cushion the effect of such hike on Nigerians, then let's see the program, let's see the project, let's see the policies. But in a situation, even as we are talking about fuel hike, okay, in NNPC filling station, they are selling between 1,000 naira and 1,100, 1,120. But people are still queuing. You are buying a 10 liter of fuel. I bought 10 liter of fuel on the street of Abuja at 16,000 naira, 10 liter. So you find out that there is a state of confusion. The government is saying different things. Their economists, if you listen to any of the ministers, what this minister A says will be different from what minister B says. So there is this general confusion in the system because there is no clear cut out policy and the president is not speaking. Nobody is telling us anything. So there's a total confusion in the country. So I think that the first step would be to reverse this increment. Let us go back to where we were. Remember that before the 617 naira, 700 naira per liter, the federal government said that it has signed the Minimum Wage Act of 70,000 naira into law. but no Nigerian worker has received that minimum wage. So you see the confusion continues to grow. So when you are talking about any policy, what can be done, it is any policy that has every policy all over the world, every economic policy, there's usually milestones and there's usually timelines that if we get to point A, this will be the result. If we get to point B, this will be the result. But in this situation, there is no such thing. So we have a problem with people talking about what can be done. The only thing that can be done that we Nigerians know that if this gets done, we can now have a respite is for the government to immediately revert to the old prices of petrol. And that is not even 617. That should be 200 naira at least per liter, so that when we have that, the government can now tell us, okay, in the next 6 months, we intend to raise these prices. By then, we would have put this and this in place to cushion the effects. In Nigeria today, because this transportation, it trickles down to every single aspect of our life as a people. So when you say any policy, what can we do? There is nothing to be done right now aside from reverting to the old pump price of petroleum products in Nigeria.
Well, Mr. Moses Siddiq, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and giving your expert opinion on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well,
now it's time for a break. When we return, political parties in Kaduna State tasked to adopt dispute resolution mechanisms. We'll bring you the details shortly. Now to politics. The Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission and the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria have tasked political parties participating in the upcoming local government elections in the state to put in place mechanisms that will help resolve disputes arming political parties ahead of the polls. Now, this was during the inauguration of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee's General Assembly and Steering Committee in the state, expected to help reduce the number of litigations after polls. Our correspondent, Edeng Joseph, completes the story.
The Supreme Court's decision to grant local government autonomy has come as a game changer for inclusive democracy at the grassroots. This decision, which followed the mandate for states to conduct local government elections, has over the past few months seen states fix dates for their election. As Kaduna State released its schedule for its local government elections, all 19 political parties participating in the polls have been urged to create a mechanism that can manage disputes.
Most of the court cases in this country have been as a result of internal party crisis, and a lot of seats have been lost. So please, I want you to take note of that.
We can demonstrate the strength of our collective resolve to overcome adversity by strengthening our political parties and deepening internal democracy.
The State Independent Electoral Commission says that local government polls in the state will be held on October 19th. The State Commissioner adds that the Commission is working hard to make sure those elected are sworn into office by the 1st of November.
We want to adhere to the law that says after 3 years, there should be new representative. We don't want to have a vacuum. We don't want elected representative to hand over to caretaker.
The special advisor to the Kaduna State Governor also expressed the government's openness to ideas and suggestions that will benefit citizens in the states.
In governance, those strategies that you think if you could have won the election, this is what you bring to the people of Kaduna State. We say, please let us tap into those things because it is about the people.
With the 3-month moratorium agreed between state governors and the federal government on local government autonomy drawing closer, Kaduna State now joins the list of states set to hold local government elections. In Abuja for News Central, I am Edeng Joseph.
Away from that now, the Independent National Electoral Commission has announced the successful accreditation of 140 media organizations ahead of the upcoming Edo State governorship elections on September 21st, 2024. INEC revealed this in a statement released on Monday by its National Commissioner and Chairman, the Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun. The accredited outlets, which include newspapers, radio and television stations, and online platforms, have collectively submitted the details of 721 personnel who will be deployed to cover the election. According to the Commission, the personnel will serve as reporters, cameramen, broadcast engineers, and support staff during the election. And now to security stories. Residents of the Sokoto state have called on the federal government to do more in ending the activities of bandits, which have continued to pose a danger to their lives and livelihoods. They say that despite the current economic situation in the country, bandit activities have increased their hardship and need to be curbed. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
It's Sunday afternoon in Sokoto town, also referred to as the seat of the caliphate. Though citizens are seen going about their normal businesses, many of them carry the pain brought by the rise in bandit activities. They say the effects of banditry and terrorism are compounding the calls by the government for citizens to bear the current harsh economy.
I'm here in Tohon Kasua in Sokoto city center, where I'm interacting with traders, and a lot of them are raising issues of high price of petrol, insecurity that has made prices of food to increase. I'm here one of the chairman. Assalamu alaikum balo.
Alaikum assalam.
Ya aiki ya kasuwa.
Kasuwa mun gode Allah.
Ka ya kyau ba. To gashi nan kana sadda doya ya harkan kasuwan ne ya take ne akan farashi da sauransu.
To kasuwa kan sai dai mu ce inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, babu dadi wallahi. Dan sai mu je mu sauko kuɗi mu ba mu gani mu sayar. Gobe sai mu koma kuma mu je mu sauko mu ba mu gani kuɗi mu sayar. Illa dai dole ne kasuwanci ya zama babu inda zaka sa kanka. Dan Najeriya yau bai san inda zai sai kai ne ba cikin wannan matsala. Kasuwancin babu dadi. Sai dai ai ta yi haka da muka san abin da zaka yi ba. Ka sau da tsada in ka je kuma nan ba a sai da tsada.
Kamar wannan doyen guda ɗaya haka da kake da guda ɗaya haka.
Yanzu ka gane shi wannan in na je kasuwa zan sawo shi 2,500. In na je ni ce 2,700 ba za a sai ba. To yanzu akwai sashin da baka zuwa can kai noma. Dole ka ji ana kama ka a kashe ko a ce sai ka a kama ka a ce sai ka kawo miliyan 10 idan ka gane su. To ina kira ga gwamnati gaskiya a samar da tsaro don shi an mahita in ya zan talaka ko ba a bashi komai an ka bari ya je daji ya yi noma ya samu abinci to komai an bashi mu magana tsaro babu gwamnati da gwamnati ce ta ba mu wasu kuɗi wanda mu a kawo da tsaro.
Ma'aikatan da aka kawo ga hanya babu su saboda mi su ma ba samu wani abu suka ba suna can suna bi dan wani abu su ma wannan za su kai ma ɗayan su yanzu Allah ɗaya san gidan da ana sati guda ba ya bin shi ba.
Kya matsalar tsaro ta wuce duk tunanin dan adam. Abun ya kai inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'una. Yanzu in ka je nan dange shuni da rana mun san inda barayi suke lani na sai inda suke da ɗiyansu da matansu ana ganin su. Kuma ba ko bindigogi gare su na kwale ba duk yake rugana. Suna zuwa da mangariba ta suna ɗauke mutane nan ƙauyukan dange shuni da kaje dange shuni kaje da aka ce mada bagi. Akwai matsalar tsaro wallahi, akwai barayi wallahi zagaye da jihar Sokoto ƙananan hukumomi suna cikin haɗari ba a iya noma ba a iya kiwo suna kwashe dukiyar mutane suna ƙona abincin mutane.
Gaskiya game da wanga kashe-kashen da ake yi ba mu jin daɗi ran muna ɓaci mun rasa laihin komi na rashin laihin gwamnati na ko laihin mu talakawa.
One of the residents, also known as Rambo, a popular youth leader residing around the Sultan's Palace, told News Central Television that the youths in Sokoto are willing to join the war against banditry. He, however, says that it is on the condition that the families are taken care of in the case they lose their lives.
Ni iri na talaka yanzu in ni kokari ni kunduku share ya nittare yan ta'adda an kashe ni. Yanzu iyali na za a basu gaban zani. To kaga yanzu wani bai koma yan haka nan. Amma yanzu ni iri na a ce yanzu na tari yan ta'adda sun taho na tare su an yi bala'i an kashe ni. Kilan hukuma ta ɗo nauyin iyali na. Kaga wani zai koma yan haka nan.
Despite the security challenges, the citizens of Sokoto State are going about their normal businesses. This implies that they are willing and ready to give government their full cooperation to end insecurity in not just Sokoto, but the entire northwest region of the country.
In Sokoto State, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Let's also tell you that the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on National Security, Satomi Ahmed, says the National Assembly will allocate significant funds in the 2025 upcoming budget to support the Almajiri population. This initiative aims to address the underlying issues, the social issues contributing to insecurity by providing resources for tracking, identifying and supporting these vulnerable children. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the story.
A smile by this child amidst the resilience of not knowing when and how to get food on the street of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. These children wandered the street in search of food and other support from individuals in the metropolis, a retrogressive narrative that News Central keeps reporting in search of an action.
The National Assembly, under the able leadership of His Excellency Dr. Tajuddin Abbas, is determined to provide funds in the 2025 budget for the Almajiri and out-of-school children in line with the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. If we get the out-of-school children back on board, definitely the crisis, the chaotic issues, they are the potential scouters by the bandit insurgency Boko Haram. An idle mind is a devil's workshop. It's an enlightened interest of the government to engage them, to call them, to put them into and use and utilize them in all aspects of life, in all aspects, ramification of discharge of this country. Without engaging the out-of-school children, definitely there is no way we can solve the insecurity. By extension, insecurity is not only the king of arms. No, leaving your own children doing nothing is a catastrophe and is a disaster in future. So therefore, we will work towards that, not only working on the present out-of-school children, we will go even into the health sector to control the birth system, where parents that are giving birth to children that they cannot cater and care for.
The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on National Security flagged off the disbursement of 20 million naira scholarship to vulnerable students of Jeri and urged them to volunteer as teachers to help in their nearby areas.
I should advise our government to continue with this kind of programs and to create even more of this so that it will help the less privileged ones to pursue their studies. And again, also those that are affected by the insurgencies, they should not feel ashamed or they should not feel less privileged to continue, or even poverty or something to prevent them from studying or from furthering their educations.
He needs to help us, we the youths that we are in school, so that we can be able to have an access to the school and we can be able to afford some materials and then further our education in the future.
Mitigating the insecurity bedeviling the region and Nigeria as a whole seems to require an effective mechanism to tackle the social factors that contribute to the problem. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Public tertiary institutions in the southeast have begun receiving payments for students' school fees through the federal government student loan scheme aimed at supporting their education. A team from the Nigeria Education Loan Scheme, led by Managing Director Akintunde Sawyer, visited the Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, Abia State, to sensitize the students on how to apply, benefit from, and repay the loans. News Central's Chinwe Ogele reports from the scene.
Is a student loan meant for students in tertiary institutions that are owned by the state and federal governments.
The loan is completely interest-free as of today, and the stipend is what they can get as long as they've applied for the loan for the institution and they've got that loan. The stipend covers that for them. The way this has been designed is that there is no requirement for a guarantor, no need to go and see anybody to help you apply for this loan. It's a direct relationship between the applicant, the student, and the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. They will become beneficiaries of the institution. We pay the institutions the institutional fees directly, and we pay the stipend directly to the accounts of the students themselves.
There was concern that the Southeast region was excluded from the student loan scheme, a program introduced by President Bola Tinubu in July 2024. However, the federal government has clarified that the program is inclusive and not restricted to specific regions.
This loan scheme is for every part of Nigeria. It's an equal opportunities loan scheme.
Understandably, every student of public tertiary institutions in Nigeria is eligible to apply for and benefit from this loan scheme. Despite this, some students in the southeast remain hesitant to apply, leading to a lower than expected application rate from the region.
The importance of this loan cannot be overemphasized. Maybe because it's called loan, that is why people are dragging their feet. There is no way that you are not working and you'll be held responsible to pay for the loan, to pay back the loan. Key into this program, I wouldn't like a situation at the end of the day will be crying marginalization as it pertains to this student's loan.
Michael Opera University of Agriculture, which has a student population of over 30,000, has seen only 574 applications for the loan. Students have expressed relief, noting that the loan will alleviate their worries about paying school fees.
The tuition fee just skyrocketed some years back till now. So, and then I know a couple of persons that have dropped out of school due to the high rate of the school fees. And then with this provision, I believe so well that a couple of persons would have to stay back in school and finish up their degree. I know how hard it was for my parents. My mom, like, they have been trying. So this is an opportunity for me to further my education and for me to do my best.
Among the benefits of this loan scheme are coverage for school fees and allowances, potential job opportunities upon graduation, and a structured repayment plan. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Ugili.
Nigerians have been tasked to respect the rights to religious beliefs of fellow citizens irrespective of their faith. This was during a workshop by International Peace-Building Organization, the search for common ground, in partnership with the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands, where citizens were tasked to embrace tolerance in a bid to reducing conflicts among adherents of different faiths. Amadin Uyi reports.
The right to freedom of worship is enshrined in Nigeria's constitution. However, despite these rights, cases of rights violations bordering on freedom of religious beliefs continue to abound in the country.
From the report we have gotten here today, we are seeing cases of violations of human rights, religious belief, freedom of belief. And so I want to say that there is much to be desired, both on the side of all religions.
This year we received about 19 cases tied to religion, and let me say in the last 2-3 months of. But you're right, if you put it, quite a lot of them, but also it's not that everything that comes, we respond by also going through what are the incidences, what happened, and also linking out with other critical actors within the context this was committed, and then we'll see. But specifically, we have been able to look into and also address it specifically on the country at the moment. And then
at this workshop organized by International Peace-Building Organization, the search for common ground, stakeholders urge citizens to embrace tolerance, saying it is key to harmonious cohabitation between citizens of different faiths.
At the bedrock of the entire thing is tolerance. We have to tolerate each other. The key way to making sure that conflict is reduced or conflict is resolved is the understanding that as human beings, we're all equal, we all have equal rights, and that our rights to religion must be respected.
Clerics present also called for more sensitization of the public on the legal implications of infringing on the rights of citizens of different faiths and their rights to religious belief.
The only way to improve on this issue is sensitization first. When people are aware, and when, especially when at the grassroots, people understand that it is a punishable offense to attack somebody because of his faith or because of his belief, then we are going to reduce the tendencies of having more.
Religious leaders were also tasked to lead a charge in promoting the right to freedom of worship and religious beliefs. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
And now the news continues in West Africa, where at least 16 people have been killed and 22 others injured in a tragic collision between a bus and a lorry in central Senegal early Monday morning. The fire brigade, speaking to journalists, confirmed that the accident occurred around 6 a.m. local time near the village of Ndangalma. Road accidents are a frequent occurrence in Senegal, often attributed to the poor condition of roads and vehicles, reckless driving and corruption among officials responsible for law enforcement and issuing driving licenses. In response to a recent surge in road accidents, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, his government promised concerted action. In August, Transport Minister El Malik Ndiaye announced that roadside checks would be intensified and penalties increased. Now we heard to Kenya, where authorities say DNA testing begins today to identify 21 boys who died in last week's school dormitory fire at Hillside Endarasha Academy, Nyeri County. The tragic blaze, which erupted late Thursday night, has raised serious concerns about safety standards in Kenyan schools. 19 bodies were recovered from the dormitory ruins, while 2 more died in hospital. 17 remain unaccounted for, while bodies burnt beyond recognitions are still being recovered. Nyeri County Commissioner Pius Murigu urged affected families to attend forensic identification at Merumuru Hospital. According to Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Adua, post-mortems will start on Tuesday. President William Ruto declared 3 days of national mourning. Flags will fly at half-mast from Monday to Wednesday to honor the victims. And staying in East, at least 21 people were killed in shellings at a market in southwest Sudan's Sena town on Sunday. According to the Sudan's Doctors Network, the paramilitary Rapid Response Support Force are to be held responsible for the attack, which also wounded over 70 people. This latest violence comes amid a brutal conflict between the army and paramilitary forces that began in April last year, killing tens of thousands and creating a dire humanitarian crisis. The shelling occurred a day after Sudan's foreign ministry, aligned with the army under General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, rejected a UN call for an independent force to protect civilians. UN experts have reported harrowing violations by both sides, possibly amounting to war crimes. In Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has warned that Ethiopia will humiliate any nation threatening its sovereignty as tensions rise in the Horn of Africa. Speaking at a Sovereignty Day ceremony in Addis Ababa, Abiy stated Ethiopia would not negotiate on its sovereignty and dignity. Tensions are high with Somalia over its maritime deal with Somaliland and with Egypt over Ethiopia's Blue Nile mega dam. Last month, Ethiopia accused unnamed actors of trying to destabilize the region after Egypt sent military equipment to Somalia. Egypt has also offered to send troops to Somalia under a new Africa Union-led mission, which will replace the current peacekeeping force, ATMIS, where Ethiopia is a major contributor against al-Shabaab militants. A Philippine pastor wanted in the United States for child sex trafficking has been presented to the press after he was arrested by authorities 2 weeks into a massive manhunt. The U.S. charged the Kingdom of Jesus Christ preacher in 2021 with sex trafficking of girls and women aged 12 to 25 to work as personal assistant who were allegedly required to have sex with him. The pastor, identified as Apollo Quiboloi, is also sought by U.S. authorities for bulk cash smuggling and a scheme that brought church members to the United States using fraudulently obtained visas. They were then forced to solicit donations for a bogus charity, raising funds that were instead used to finance church operations and the lavish lifestyle of its leader, according to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Andito isang PNP na kasama natin, si ating PNP dito. Pinasok siya roon at nung palabas, sila pinatabi na lang namin yung mga police so that they could get out. Okay? Yun ang nangyari. It was the PNP, doon siya sumuko.
And now business. The Nigerian exchange lost 83 billion naira last week as both the all-share index and market capitalization depreciated by 0.15% due to sell-offs in big stocks. The ASI closed the week at 96,433.53 points, while the market capitalization settled at 55 naira 39 tons. Now, despite a backward trend, the NGX oil and gas index bucked the market's performance with a 1.52% gain. During the week, investors traded 2.14 billion shares worth of 52.22 billion naira in 55,603 deals, decreasing from the previous week's 2.82 billion shares valued at 53.048 billion naira traded in 50,488 deals. And sports. Nigeria's quest to pick tickets to the FIBA Under-18 World Cup tournament slated to hold in Switzerland continues despite the challenges. According to reports from the team's camp in South Africa, things are getting tougher for the Jade Tigers, and it is coming off the courts. 9 members of the female under-18 team are currently down with flu. This is after the team had multiple turnovers as the team slumped to a 64-80 point loss to their Ugandan opponents at the under-18 Afro Basketball in South Africa. The final group game loss leaves Nigeria third in Pool C, and the girls will be hoping to qualify for the quarterfinals as one of the best third-place teams in the competition. The funeral for Ugandan Olympic runner Rebecca Cheptegei, who died in Kenya after being set on fire by her boyfriend, will be held on September 14th in her home country. The 33-year-old, who competed in the women's marathon at the Paris Olympics last month, succumbed to severe burns on Thursday, 4 days after being doused with petrol and set alight at her home in western Kenya. The burial ceremony will take place in the sub-county of Boko district, eastern Uganda. Boko is the location of Cheptegei's family home and lies on the border with Kenya, about 380 kilometers northeast of the Ugandan capital, Kampala. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories we brought your way this afternoon. Department of State Service has taken over Abuja office of the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Nigeria Labour Congress has vowed to resist oppression amidst Ajaero's detention. And we also told you that bus-lorry collision has claimed 16 lives and injured 22 in central Senegal. Now, to remember, you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen now. You follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.